Hey, we have some breaking news. It appears Geoff Duncan is about to give some comments to the media outside of the Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center where that FBI raid occurred yesterday. Just for some background, Duncan was a Republican at the time, Lieutenant Governor of Georgia during the 2020 election. He has now switched parties. He is now a Democrat and now running for higher office. In fact, he's running for governor. So let's listen into a little bit of Geoff Duncan.
We go back through the rigmarole.
Rolling. Alrighty, just for the record, I'm going to have you say and spell your first and your last name. You don't have to spell it, but say your first and your last name.
Geoff Duncan, but I will spell it because it's tricky. Geoff.
And what is your reaction to what happened here at the Fulton County Elections Hub when the FBI raided this building?
I think it's to just be honest and call it what it is. This is not about election integrity. This is not about validating the 2020 election. This is about simply trying to create a permission structure to sow synthetic seeds of doubt into the midterms in 26 that are coming in November and in the 28 elections. That's what this is about. That's the game Donald Trump plays. That's the game that his entire inner circle plays, is just sowing seeds of doubt. This has never been about facts. Donald Trump has never cared about facts in the 2020 election. He's never cared about due process or democracy. He's just cared about his own vanity of losing an election in 2020, acting like it was rigged, and it wasn't.
Do you think there is more to find out about the election, an election that happened 6 years ago?
I think we need to stay focused on trying to figure out how to have the safest, most legal elections again in 2026. We need to make sure Democrats and Republicans' votes are counted. We need to make sure that the election workers aren't harassed. We need to make sure systems are in place and backups and hand counts and audits and all of that stuff that the law provides. We don't need to have people sticking their nose in here just because they lost. And trying to create doubt in people's minds. That's what this is about. Look, we've had almost 6 years to run this out. Not a single ounce of proof has been generated. I think the most concrete thing I've seen about this election in 2020 of being rigged was a Facebook post or a Twitter post. These are not real people making real arguments.
And you were an elected official when the 2020 presidential election took place. You were in office when Trump called. What are you feeling, or what's your reaction to see that this is still playing out today? You know, you are in a new place in your life, you're running for office, and we're still seeing the ramifications from the election today.
Yeah, I think it's why I'm standing here as a Democratic candidate for governor. It's a huge reason why. I ran out of reasons why I should even remotely think about being a Republican. I was disgusted after the 2020 elections at not just the election, but then just the willingness to double down and lie and cheat and try to steal an election. And so I stand here today, walking around the state every minute of every day, trying to earn the trust and respect of enough Georgians to be the next governor. And I tell you, the rooms are growing. It's not just Democrats showing up in these rooms in the evenings. It's independents that are willing to pick sides. It's even disgusted Republicans that have had enough, that are showing up. And I think the best message we can send to Donald Trump and to the MAGA groups that are trying to create fear and domination around the country is to win this election, to put a Democrat in the governor's mansion for the first time in nearly 30 years in Georgia, and send a message to the rest of the country that there is a better way to do this. They should expect more out of their leaders. We should have authentic, genuine leadership in important positions.
And we heard from the Republican chairman of Georgia, Josh McCoons, and he said that this was long overdue. Do you think it's long overdue?
What's long overdue is for us to actually have a legitimate conversation about how we move forward, how we actually take this country. And what I'll say is important is Josh McCoon or is Donald Trump talking about the affordability crisis that every Georgian's facing right now? Is Josh McCoon or Donald Trump talking about the healthcare crisis that so many millions of Georgians are waking up to right now today? No. Are they talking about the egregious acts of the ICE agents in Minnesota? Donald Trump should be on an airplane right now flying to Minnesota instead of going to Mar-a-Lago, apologizing to those families, giving those kids a hug, saying that they will fire everybody involved in that process that made those horrific decisions, and restructuring ICE to not do what they're currently doing, to actually enforce the laws and not to be about fear and domination.
And what would you say to a voter who is now questioning election integrity here in Fulton County as we look to the 2026 election?
I think Georgia has proven for years that we have the safest, most legal elections. They've been audited, hand counted, you name it. These elections have been under scrutiny. And we continue to put forward a great election process that plays out. County by county, city by city, state, all across the state. But look, we cannot let people come in and sow seeds of doubt to create this chaos. And that's really what happened in 2020. That's why I spoke up as loudly as I did, because I knew that if the cat got out of the bag, that Donald Trump's lies were actually somewhat true, that it would create this herd mentality. And unfortunately, that's what's happened. But every day Donald Trump opens his mouth, every day events like this happen, my tent in my campaign gets bigger. The Democratic Party gets bigger, because I think folks wake up and realize we need genuine, authentic leaders that aren't willing to lie to get to office.
And if this continues when you are in office, give us an outlook on what your relationship will be between the White House and Georgia. Are you willing to take on President Trump if he continues doing, what we saw yesterday?
There's no doubt I'm willing to take on Donald Trump when he's wrong. I've done it when I was even in the Republican Party. I stood up to him, and I've not backed down. I won't. If he wants to use state assets, state resources to carry out these ICE raids, I won't allow it. I'll use the courts to the full extent of the law to push back on National Guard troops in the streets if we don't need them. I'll push back on using state resources. We have to. If we don't, he's just going to continue to be a bully or an authoritarian or a dictator. You fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add on what transpired yesterday, the FBI raid, possibly if that was federal government overreach? Anything else you may want to add?
Well, I think as the facts are starting to surface, there were so many moving parts inside the FBI with the personnel, right? Certain folks don't do what Donald Trump wants to do, they move them on. The fact that the judge who signed the warrant was from a different state. I mean, there's just so many different narratives that continue to fact patterns that play out. Donald Trump is running a Ponzi scheme, and it's of total misinformation. He's last week talking about Greenland. The week before he's invades Venezuela. He's weaponizing every angle of the federal government, but yet not tackling the affordability crisis, not tackling the healthcare crisis.
That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
That is Geoff Duncan, former lieutenant governor, Republican at the time, the 2020 election here in Georgia. Now a Democrat, switched parties as he is running for governor. You heard his take on yesterday's FBI raid there at the Fulton County election headquarters. I want to share with you what some Republicans are saying in response, including Burt Jones, who is running against Mr. Duncan for the governor's seat. Mr. Jones, currently the lieutenant governor, who followed Geoff Duncan, says Fulton County elections couldn't run a bake sale. Says, unfortunately, our Secretary of State hasn't fixed the corruption and our AG hasn't prosecuted it. He said yesterday was an important step toward accountability. A couple other gentlemen running for office on the Republican side. This is current Representative Mike Collins running for a Senate seat, saying go get him, Cash, in reference to FBI Director Kash Patel. And Buddy Carter, representative from Georgia, also running for U.S. Senate, saying Georgians are about to get some long overdue answers and learn just how right President Trump was in 2020. So some Republican rebuttals there to what we saw at the FBI office, as we just brought you live comments from Geoff Duncan, former Republican turned Democrat, speaking to our Ariana Manise, and she had some great questions for him there outside of the Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center. What comes next? Still a lot of unknowns in this particular case, now that 3 truckloads full of hundreds of ballot boxes have been seized, and you're looking at video of that operation going well into the night last night. We found out about it around noon yesterday that the search warrant was being executed, and you could see by the daylight video there and then the nighttime video, this was an operation that lasted for quite some time. So those boxes now on their way to the FBI's headquarters in Northern Virginia. And we're going to have to wait to see what happens next with that investigation.